Alright, what is going on today, guys? I wanted to talk about something that I'm sure you've heard me talk about in my videos before. I've mentioned a few times. I've also commented to people down in the comments below. You know, I'm not really a GM fan myself. Don't get me wrong, there are GM cars that I like. I mainly like older GM stuff. You know, like one of my favorite cars on the entire planet. In fact, it is like one of my favorite cars. It's definitely something I'm going to own one day, without a doubt. Is a Grand National. I've always loved the Buick Grand Nationals. I always just thought they were like awesome cars. It is one of my all-time favorite cars, and one day on this channel, you will see a Grand National. I promise you. Just not, you know, don't really have the funds for it right now, and you know, whatever else. But for the most part, I'm not really a GM fan. Now, I like the older GMs, like I said. I like the old Firebirds and GTOs. Like, I love the GTO Judge. I love that car. Great car. Camaros are okay. I was never really the biggest Camaro fan. I like Corvettes, the old Stingrays, you know, 67, where you get a 63 split window. So there are GMs that I do like. I don't necessarily hate GM cars. I love the 442s, like the, you know, you get a, oh god, what is it? The Hearst Oldsmobile. You know, I like a lot of the older GM stuff. But once you start getting into the 2000s, really even the 90s, a lot of GMs, the quality's really has just gone downhill. And I'll show you this car here, okay? We got 15,000 miles on this Buick Verano. Now, this is a 2014. It's a 2014 Buick Verano, okay? And we've had quite a few problems with this car over the ownership, you know, the ownership of owning it. Well, ownership of owning it. That makes a lot of sense. Our time owning it, you know, in 15,000 miles, and I believe the car is a, it's a 2014, okay? 2014, the video is in 2019. It has 15,000 miles. So that goes to show you right there, it's not really driven a whole lot. Now, we've had problems with this car, and it always seems like we just keep having some type of issue with it. Originally, this corner piece up there was popped out. They had to put that back. There was another issue with the car a few years ago, and I don't remember what it is. There was something else we had to deal with. But now, there's two problems that this car is having, which still, it just blows my mind that there's even some type of issue considering how low mileage this car is. If you look at the back of the steering wheel here, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it. The leather wrap on the steering wheel, it's like peeling. I can't really show you without my hand getting in the way. But if you look at the steering wheel here, it's like, it's peeling. I don't know how well you can see. You probably see my fingernails, but the wrap on the steering wheel here was starting to peel. Okay, and for 15,000 miles, I'm sorry, that is just unacceptable. That is just poor quality. I mean, that's just reality of it. Well, there's another issue I'll get into in a second, but something that I don't like about this car, which blows my mind, is it doesn't have a single USB port to like plug in your phone. Now, I think there's a USB port. Yeah, there's a USB port in here to charge your phone, but that has nothing to do with the, you know, infotainment center, you want to call it, the head unit. They don't really call them head units anymore, but there's nothing you could connect your phone or anything to the head unit itself. There's nothing in this car. It's a 2014, and I understand it's a Buick, and a lot of seniors buy this car, but this is like a loaded Buick. I mean, this came with almost every single option you can get, and somehow it doesn't have a USB port for your phone. I don't know if that's just for this car, but it's something that just really blows my mind. I hate the start-stop. There's times you press the button, and it just doesn't, like, even like right now, I'm pressing it. It's not reacting. It's not doing anything. If you really press it, now there we go. Now I finally got it. No remote detected after I like slammed the button down. But even just pressing the button lightly, it's like not picking it up. You gotta like push it down real hard. So never like that. But one of the new issues that we're having, and this is pretty severe. It's not the end of the world, but it's something that is like still should not be happening with 15,000 miles on a car. If I can get this stupid thing open. Another thing, this car doesn't have, it has a prop rod. It doesn't have the struts, which isn't that big a deal, but it's still, once again, it's like, really? Like, you don't have that? This car is leaking coolant. I don't know how well you're gonna see it from here. It is all wet in there. Looks like it starts from the top of this hose right up here, and it's leaking its way down. If you look at the coolant reservoir, you can see how low it is. Okay. Now, it had rained. If it didn't rain, you would see it was marking spots in the driveway. It's how we noticed to begin with that it was losing coolant. But if we get underneath here, okay, if we get underneath, you could probably maybe see it from here, how wet everything looks under here. Get my finger here, see how it's wet and it's losing coolant. Okay, now this car wasn't an accident. This car wasn't an accident. One could say that this is caused because of the accident, but it didn't start doing it until, I don't even know, a couple months after the accident had occurred. And it wasn't a severe accident. It was just something right up here in the front. They had to replace the bumper, I believe. The fender's still original. They may have replaced a headlight. I don't know the entire details on what was replaced here. I think it's only really cosmetic stuff. Nothing on the inside has been replaced at all. So we're not quite sure why it is losing coolant, but it's leaking from somewhere up here. It will be going to the dealership to have it get looked at. Should still be under warranty. But I kind of wanted to make this quick little video to show you. Let me close this up. I can't believe this car has a prop rod. It's a $35,000 car and it doesn't have hood struts. I just kind of wanted to make a quick little video and show you guys. This is a reason why I'm not really a fan of new GM cars. This is why I always tell people I don't like General Motors cars. This is really a prime example why I'm not really a fan of them. My Oldsmobile is kind of a good example of GM quality. I was having an issue with it, sat off the road, had it off the road for 4 or 5 years, fixed it, get it back on the road, and what does it do? It breaks again, and now it's sitting again. Because the starter went bad. And before the starter went bad, my computer went bad in the car. That car has probably left me stranded about 3 times. One time I got stranded because of a fuel line, which was not the car's fault. It's the squirrel's fault, because where I used to live, there was like rabid squirrels that would eat fuel lines for some reason. So the fuel line, that had to be replaced. It left me stranded one time. Another car, the time the car left me stranded was when my alternator went bad. Hey Ma, has a car ever left you stranded before when you owned it? Oldsmobile?
I don't believe so.
You never had to get it towed?
I
know since I've owned it, I had to get it towed like 3 times.
No, I don't think
Or 2 times. I've had to get it towed twice or 3 times. I don't remember.
I don't think so.
But those are the 2 times that I had to get it towed. Now granted, the one time, like I said, it was not really the car's fault. It happened because I was leaking fuel and I didn't know it when I left my house. When I was leaving work, that's when I noticed I was like just pouring out fuel. I had almost a full tank, and then when I get to work, I'm like, my gas gauge seems really low. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I should have more fuel than that. And then sure enough, when I started up, I was like, yeah, my gas just does not seem right. I look underneath the car and I'm just like pissing out fuel. So, you know, that was at least I made it to work. I probably could have made it back home if I stopped at like every gas station and, you know, I'm sure if I filled it up, I could have made it back home, but I was like, I'm not dealing with it. I'll get it towed, figure it out. But even the quality with this car, it's just, it's just GM quality. I don't know what else there is to say. The door handles have always felt really cheap and just like, you know. It's starting to leak, which happens with older cars, I get it. But, I don't know. There's just GM cars, like none of the power windows in this thing work besides the driver's side. I've been in plenty of older Hondas or Toyotas, whatever, old Fords, and their power windows work just fine. So, now I'm sure there's people that, oh, well, I've been in GM cars and it was fine. I'm glad you have good experience, but at least from what I've experienced in any GM car that we've ever had, they just, I don't know, they seem to have issues. What else has gone bad in this car? The headliner's starting to sag, which that happens in all cars, it's not a GM thing. The brake lines will go on these cars. This car's been pretty good at the brake lines. I will say for the most part, it has been pretty reliable, that car. I'm not saying it's not that reliable. I'm just saying it could be a lot better. And this is really the reason why I don't like GM cars, is the newer stuff. You know, it's kind of sad. Oh, it's kind of sad that we're looking at my Jeep over there. Okay, has 230,000 miles, actually 231 if you want to be technical. 231,000 miles on it. The motor's never been touched, at least to my knowledge. I don't think it's been rebuilt. Pretty sure it's original. Transmission seems original. I take it out in the woods and I beat on it, and it is still running compared to an Oldsmobile over there that has 110,000 miles on it. And we got a Buick Verano here that, yeah, it's still running, but it's leaking coolant and it has 15,000 miles on it. And let's be honest, Chrysler is not known for its reliability. In fact, I'm not really a big Chrysler fan either. I don't really like any new Chryslers. Don't get me wrong, I love the new Challenger and Charger. I think they're cool as hell, don't get me wrong, but I'd never buy one. I don't think Chrysler quality is there. Especially now that they're partnered with Fiat. You know, their quality's gone way downhill. So, I don't know, guys. I just kind of make a video why I'm just not really a GM fan. I don't like the way that they design their cars. I feel like a lot of times they've copied Ford in car designs. The Ranchero is a perfect example. You know, Ford came out with the Ranchero, and yes, I know I like the El Camino more than like the Ranchero. I'm sure most people will agree that. But the point of the matter is the El Camino is actually a copy of the Ranchero. Ford came out with the first. It was just a straight up copy. Now, there has been times where Ford has copied GM. I believe the Corvette came out first before the Thunderbird did. The Thunderbird was a competitor for the Corvette. So there's at least one example I can think of that Ford did copy GM. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, guys. You tell me why you think a GM is better than a Ford, really. I'm talking mainly about American brands. When it comes to the big three, Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, I'm taking Ford pretty much any time over any Chevy or Dodge. That's how I've always felt. I feel like GM's the worst. I'd rather have a Dodge over a GM. At least, well, that's a whole other topic. I'm kind of rambling on at this point. When it comes to cars, I'm not really a fan of GMs. When it comes to the trucks, I'm really not a fan of GM. I pick them below Dodges. When it comes to the cars, I'd probably rather have a GM car over a Chrysler car myself. So, that's just my opinion. Like I said, let me know how you guys feel. If you want, I can make a part 2 of this, because I could probably ramble on for another 15 minutes. 15-20 minutes while I'm not really a GM fan. I just wanted to use this car leaking coolant with 15,000 miles. I just figured this would be a good example of, you know, kind of where the GM quality's at. So if you're buying a new GM car, just, you know, be forewarned that you're probably going to have issues with it down the line, because GM just, I don't know. I just don't think they know how to make a car, to be honest with you. But that's it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.